Since it's the holiday season, I thought I'd do something Hallmark related for the Christmas special this year. Now, for my very first subscriber special in 2019, I discussed an obscure series from my childhood called Asteroid Andy, which was a series created by Pedro Martin for Hallmark in the late 2000s. The series, unfortunately, did not see much success, and I went into much of why in that video. However, one factor that led to Asteroid Andy's obscurity that I didn't really touch on in that video was the massive success of another series Hallmark was in charge of around the same time, Hoops and Yoyo. Given how much of a massive success Hoops and Yoyo was, it may seem strange, but I don't remember it at all. I may have brushed shoulders with Hoops and Yoyo a couple times in my childhood, but I never really engaged with it like I did with Asteroid Andy. And this is weird because with most people of my age, it was the opposite. Far more people remember Hoops and Yoyo than Asteroid Andy. So today, we're going to dive into this big series that so many people remember, except for me. Normally, I would delve into the histories of these things, but by this point, so many people have already made videos on Hoops and Yoyo, far more than I originally thought, that I don't think I'd really be mentioning anything that anyone hasn't already. So instead, this video will focus on the relationship between Hoops and Yoyo and Asteroid Andy, and how the success of Hoops and Yoyo may have played a factor in Asteroid Andy's short existence. It is, however, worth mentioning that Hoops and Yoyo far predates Asteroid Andy. I used to think they were created and greenlit by Hallmark around the same time, but apparently that's not the case. In fact, Hoops and Yoyo started all the way back in 2001 with an e-card that Hallmark artist Bob Holt created that year for the 4th of July! Sorry, I couldn't resist. By then, the Pink Cat, whom I thought was a dog to be honest, and Green Rabbit didn't have names, but they were named Hoops and Yoyo around 2003. They started with a line of e-cards, but the e-cards proved to be so successful that Hoops and Yoyo would also come to include physical cards, animated shorts, merchandise, a blog, a podcast, and even an album by Perry Griff of Do You Like Waffles fame called One Donut a Day featuring Hoops and Yoyo in 2007, among many, many other things. The universe was also expanded to include characters like Piddles, a tiny blue hamster who became the third prominent member of the cast alongside the titular Hoops and Yoyo, a giant marshmallow named Marshy, an orange slug named... what? Newbie? Really? Wow. And a few others. Hoops and Yoyo even saw international success, resulting in Hoops and Yoyo websites in both the UK and Russia, and even a collaboration with the Mars Candy Company's brand Celebrations in the Netherlands. And much of this had already happened by 2008, when Asteroid Andy was getting off the ground. Perhaps Hoops and Yoyo had already seen such immense success by this point that Asteroid Andy stood little chance being part of the same company, as Hallmark was busy devoting time and money to Hoops and Yoyo over Asteroid Andy. Still, Asteroid Andy did manage to eke out an existence, producing its own website, animated shorts, games, and a small amount of merchandise. The animation style of Asteroid Andy is also kind of similar to Hoops and Yoyo, especially the Hoops and Yoyo e-cards. This is probably due to the fact that Pedro Martin actually worked on the Hoops and Yoyo team at Hallmark around the same time as he was trying to develop his own series. Asteroid Andy was just successful enough that Out of the Blue Productions showed interest in creating a series based on it, and the series was greenlit by the nascent network The Hub in 2011. But for reasons I went into in my 100 subscribers special, the deal fell through, and the Asteroid Andy series never managed to grace the airwaves. You know what did manage to end up on TV, though? Hoops and Yoyo. Because of course they did. In 2009 and 2010, Hoops and Yoyo had its own series of shorts that played on the Hallmark Channel. That's right. Hoops and Yoyo managed to get on TV through Hallmark themselves, whereas Asteroid Andy had to go to a completely separate network to try and make it work, and even then they ultimately didn't pull through. Really shows how much of a disparity there was between these series. There was even a Hoops and Yoyo holiday special, called Hoops and Yoyo Ruin Christmas, that managed to air on CBS on November 25th, 2011. This also represents one of the only times the two series ever crossed paths, with Asteroid Andy's own holiday special, It's a Wonderful Sweater, being included in the DVD release. After 2013 or so, Asteroid Andy ceased to have any significant amount of relevancy, producing a few holiday specials before nothing was really heard from it again. Hoops and Yoyo, on the other hand, managed to keep going until around 2015, when the Hoops and Yoyo podcast ended and Bob Holt was ousted from Hallmark. Even so, though Hoops and Yoyo no longer sees new multimedia content, Hallmark still offers a few physical Hoops and Yoyo cards for purchase. How many Asteroid Andy cards are still offered by Hallmark?
That would be none.
Another disparity between Hoops and Yoyo and Asteroid Andy is in the preservation scene. Since Hallmark stopped their e-card service in 2021, people have been working hard to preserve the e-cards and animations and other Hoops and Yoyo related things to make sure that Hoops and Yoyo doesn't become lost media. There's even an entire website dedicated to its preservation. Asteroid Andy, on the other hand, has not been so lucky. Though most of the Hoops and Yoyo animations are still with us, a good chunk of the Asteroid Andy animations are not. The same goes for most of the Asteroid Andy Flash games, with a couple notable exceptions, while many of the Hoops and Yoyo games have been preserved. It is good that some Asteroid Andy content has been preserved, but there might have been more preserved if Asteroid Andy had managed to secure a greater following in its heyday. Even with both franchises now laid to rest, Hoops and Yoyo unfortunately continues to outshine Asteroid Andy in nearly every way. I truly believe that if Hallmark bothered to pay as much attention to Asteroid Andy as it was to Hoops and Yoyo and give it more resources to flourish, it would have been just as successful. The fact that it was even considered for a TV show is proof that it definitely had potential. It's just that the parent company had its priorities set on Hoops and Yoyo, in much the same way that Nickelodeon after the early 2000s set its priorities squarely on SpongeBob SquarePants. Now, I understand there are a lot of people watching this who love Hoops and Yoyo, so please understand I'm not trying to attack the franchise. I don't dislike it or wish that Hallmark prioritized Asteroid Andy over Hoops and Yoyo. I just wish that Hallmark gave it as much of a fighting chance as they gave Hoops and Yoyo, handled things more fairly, more like Nickelodeon pre-SpongeBob. If they had, Asteroid Andy could have been just as great as Hoops and Yoyo ended up being. Let me know in the comments, did you grow up with either of these series, or even both? Which is your favorite? How do you think the situation at Hallmark should have been handled? Anyway, thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas one and all. And as always, stay tuned.
October the 14th, 2003. Dear Bob, indications are strong that we shall move out tomorrow and engage in yet another bloody battle with the content group. And lest I shall not be able to write you again, I feel impelled to write a few lines with my little pink paw that may fall onto your eye when I am no more. I have no misgivings about or lack of confidence in this cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not halt or falter. I know how American civilization now leans upon the triumph of Hallmark cards, and how great a debt we owe to those like Rainbow Bright, Garfield, and the Flittons, and I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all my joys in this life to help maintain this company and to pay that debt. If I do not return, my dear Bob, never forget how much I loved you, nor that when my last breath escapes me in the meeting, it will whisper your name. Forgive my many faults and the many pains I have caused you, how thoughtless, how foolish I have sometimes been. But oh, Bob, if dead characters can come back to this earth and flit unseen around those they love, I shall always be with you in the brightest day and in the darkest night. Always, always. Bob, do not mourn me dead. Think I am gone, and wait for me, and believe me to be very sincerely yours, Pink Kit, Itty Bitty Kit. Oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah, believe me to be very sincerely yours, Hoops,